The signal in the void. The stars stretched across the black silence of space, cold and endless like a sea with no horizon. For decades, the outer colonies had gone quiet one by one, their transmissions fading into static. The Galactic Council blamed pirate activity, then resource shortages, then political collapse, but deep inside, everyone felt something worse was coming. Then it happened. A pulse across the void. A coded distress beacon that hadn't been used in over 100 years. It carried a single message, one that froze the council chambers into silence. SOS, human fleet en route. The last time that signal had been received, an empire had fallen. Ambassador Terran of the Varth Collective stood in the council hall, his tendrils quivering with disbelief. "No, this cannot be," he whispered, staring at the holographic display flickering above the center dais. The Terrans destroyed their own worlds. Their fleets vanished centuries ago, but the signal continued repeating, steady and unstoppable, bouncing through the comm relays of every major power, the room filled with low whispers, fear crawling like static through the delegates. The speaker of the council, a massive insectoid named Korax, slammed one claw on the table. This must be an error. No species could have survived Deathworld conditions for this long. But the humans had always been different. Long ago they were labeled Deathworlders, born on a planet where everything tried to kill them. Their storms shredded metal, their predators hunted in packs, and their wars burned continents. To them, hardship wasn't tragedy, it was training, and now, that training was returning to the stars far from the Council. In a deep space outpost orbiting the frozen moon of Arcos 9, Technician Ilarna watched the same signal reach her console. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the scanners. "Isolating the source, impossible," she murmured. "That's an ancient Terran military code, pre-Exodus era." The computer confirmed it, encrypted. Human signature, fleet-grade and authentic. Ilarna looked out the viewport toward the distant swirl of a nebula glowing red. Somewhere inside that storm, something massive was moving. Something human back in the council hall. Panic was beginning to spread. Reports flooded in. Unknown ships detected along multiple border sectors. Massive energy signatures, silent formations, moving in perfect synchronization. No transponders, no broadcasts, no communication. Only the echo of the SOS that started it all. The council guards moved nervously, their armor reflecting the blue light of the warning screens. The speaker turned to his advisors, voice sharp, "Find out where they're going, and who they intend to save or destroy." Deep in hyperspace, aboard a ship older than most empires, Captain Marcus Hale stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. "Coordinates locked," his navigator said quietly. "Distress beacon confirmed, outer colony Sigma 7. Hale nodded slowly. "Then we move," he said, his voice steady as steel. "Bring the fleet online." Outside the viewport, thousands of ships came to life. Engines ignited one by one, casting blue light through the void. Old Terran hulls, armored, rebuilt, reborn, bearing the faded insignia of Earth Fleet Command. The radio crackled as a single message went out to every ship. "This is Fleet Admiral Hale to all Deathworlder vessels," he said. "Signal received, coordinates locked, the human fleet is on the move," and in that moment, across every inhabited world, every species felt the same chill, because wherever humanity went, history followed, and this time, they weren't coming in peace. The outer colony burns. The colony world Sigma 7 hung like a blue-white jewel above the burning horizon of its moon, once filled with life, now bleeding fire into space. A convoy of civilian transports tried to flee the orbiting chaos, their engines leaving trails of silver flame, but they were too slow. The alien fleet that had invaded the colony moved with precision, their ships sharp and cold like blades of light slicing through the dark. They called themselves the Krill Dominion, and they had crushed entire sectors in months. Their commander, Verotech, stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Sigma 7 crack beneath orbital bombardment. "The humans were supposed to be extinct," he hissed, his mandibles clicking. "So why does this world still resist?" On the ground, a small unit of survivors huddled in the ruins of the colony's main communications array. Smoke rose into the twilight as Corporal Lena Ward patched a damaged power cell into the last functioning transmitter. "Come on," she whispered, sweat mixing with ash. "Just a little more power." Beside her, Sergeant Cale Rourke scanned the horizon through cracked goggles. A red beam swept across the field, vaporizing a nearby shuttle. the shockwave throwing dust and heat through the shelter. "They'll find us soon," he said quietly. "How long until the beacon cycles again?" 2 minutes, Lena replied, her voice trembling. "If it holds," Rourke looked up, his jaw set. He had fought in the Terran Exodus Wars before the fleet vanished into the void. He had seen humanity lose, retreat, and disappear. Now, with nothing left but silence, he had joined the outer colonies to build again. But when the Krill came, it was like history repeating itself, another slaughter, another evacuation too late. He pressed a button on his wrist console, watching the signal pulse once more into space. "Somebody's out there," he muttered. "Somebody has to be far across the galaxy." Aboard the human flagship Resolute, that pulse hit the receivers like thunder. Commander Elias Vance leaned over his console, eyes wide as the signal decrypted. "It's them, Admiral," he said into the comm. "Sigma-7, they're still alive." On the command deck, Admiral Marcus Hale turned toward the tactical hologram, the colony's coordinates glowing red. His expression hardened. "Prep dropships," he ordered. "All squadrons to readiness, we go in hot." The fleet stirred like a beast awakening. Massive dreadnoughts aligned their drives, smaller escorts peeling away to form strike wings. The jump gates ignited, blue ripples expanding through space, then silence. The Krill orbiting Sigma-7 detected the incoming anomaly seconds before it appeared. "Multiple gravitational distortions," shouted a sensor officer. "Unknown signatures, hundreds of them." Varotech turned sharply. "Identify!" But by the time the scan stabilized, it was too late. The void tore open. Dozens of Terran ships erupted into real space. Black-hulled monsters with scars of ancient wars. Their hulls glowed with plasma burn marks and patchwork armor. They didn't broadcast warnings, they didn't send hails. They just moved. Within seconds, human railguns fired, tungsten slugs streaking through the dark like lightning. 1, 2, 10 Krill cruisers shattered under kinetic impact, debris scattering like rain. The Dominion fleet tried to respond, launching interceptors. But the humans were faster, colder, coordinated. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution from the surface. Rourke looked up as the sky ignited with streaks of fire. He thought for a moment it was the end. Then the comms burst alive. "This is Fleet Command," a deep voice echoed. "Sigma-7 survivors. Your signal was received. Hold your position." "We're coming," Lena gasped, her hands shaking as she clutched the radio. "Did you hear that?" "They're here. They're really here." Rourke smiled for the first time in years. "Yeah," he said, watching a massive human warship block out the sun. "And it looks like they're angry." Above the burning colony, the Resolute descended through clouds of smoke. Admiral Hale stood at the viewport, watching his rail batteries carve through the Krill flagship's shields. "Deathworlders, they called us," he said quietly. "Let's remind them why." The Krill formation broke, some fleeing, some turning suicidal, trying to ram the Terran cruisers, but the humans didn't flinch. They advanced, silent and precise, every shot counted, every kill absolute. And as the final Krill ship exploded into fire, the Admiral gave a single order. "Begin rescue ops. No colony burns while humanity breathes." The stars shimmered again, the signal that started it all now fading into background static. But across the galaxy, that same pulse was still being heard. Other worlds, other systems, all waiting, all afraid. Because the message was clear now. The Deathworlders were back. And this time they were answering every SOS. The message echoes across the stars. The news of Sigma-7 spread faster than light, racing across communication arrays, pirate frequencies and military networks alike. No one understood how the humans had returned, but every faction felt the shift. In the halls of the Galactic Council, whispers replaced policy, and fear replaced pride. Empires that once mocked humanity now rechecked their borders, recalibrated their fleets, and rewrote their threat assessments. The Krill Dominion broadcast silence, their channels dead, their flagship destroyed, their invasion halted in a single night. But scattered survivors carried the story. Black ships with Terran symbols, unstoppable weapons. No mercy, no hesitation to the weaker worlds. It sounded like salvation to the powerful ones. It sounded like judgment either way. The galaxy knew one truth again. The Deathworlders had returned. In a mining system on the edge of Krill space, a small freighter picked up the human broadcast by accident. A voice cold and clear repeating the same line. "This is Fleet Command, distress call received." Humanity en route. The freighter's captain, a reptilian trader named Zek, stared at the console in disbelief. He had once served as a scavenger during the last Terran War, collecting wreckage from human battlefields. He remembered the smell of melted hulls, the silence after orbital bombardments, the way humans never left their dead behind. Now that same dread filled his chest again. He ordered the engines offline, whispering, "We stay quiet, no signals, no lights, and if they're really out there, I don't want them to find us." Meanwhile, on Earth's long-lost moon base, once buried under centuries of dust and silence, lights began to flicker. Ancient defense systems reactivated. Drones hummed awake. Satellites turned their lenses outward. A single phrase scrolled across the base's main screen, old Terran text glowing white. Fleet beacon reactivated. Command channel online. The forgotten home was stirring again. Back aboard the Resolute, Admiral Marcus Hale stood in his war room, a holographic map of the galaxy glowing before him. Multiple new distress signals blinked in and out, each one from a human colony thought to be dead. Sigma 7 wasn't the only one, said Commander Vance, adjusting the display. We've got 6 more colonies lighting up, scattered across old Terran sectors. Hale crossed his arms, silent, his eyes narrowing as the map filled with red beacons. Then we move faster, he said quietly. For every human world they burned, we'll relight 10 more, but not everyone in the fleet agreed. Lieutenant Sarah Knox, a tactical officer from the newer generation, frowned as she watched the screens. "Sir, the Council will see this as an invasion, not a rescue," she said. "We're crossing borders that haven't been Terran for centuries." Hale didn't turn, his voice steady as iron. "Then let them see," he said. "The Council watched while our people died. Now they'll watch us save what's left." Beyond the fleet's formation, drones deployed relay satellites, amplifying the human beacon through subspace. It wasn't just a call anymore. It was a statement, a warning and a promise all at once. "Emergency signal detected," the message said. "The human fleet is on the move." Every time it played, the galaxy trembled a little more. In the dark edges of known space, the message reached something old, something waiting. Buried in the ruins of an ancient shipyard, a sleeping dreadnought's AI stirred. Its systems flickering to life, it recognized the code. A pattern it hadn't heard since the Terran Exodus. "Signal match confirmed," it said to no one, its voice mechanical but almost reverent. "Fleet command online. Initiating wake sequence." The ship's engines hummed, dust scattering into the void. The forgotten war machine, the Hammer of Sol, had just rejoined the war. Back in the Council chambers, panic turned to division. Some argued to open diplomatic channels. Others demanded preemptive strikes, but deep down, every ambassador knew their fleets were no match. They had seen the recordings, the railgun impacts, the way human warships turned enemy cruisers to vapor in seconds. The galaxy had spent centuries mocking the Deathworlders. Now they were praying they wouldn't be next as the fleet prepared for its next jump. Admiral Hale looked through the viewport at the stars. Each light represented a world once connected to Earth, once forgotten, now calling for help again. "Set coordinates for Theta Prime," he ordered. His crew looked up, confused. "That system's been dead for 300 years, sir," said Commander Vance. Hale smiled faintly, his voice quiet but firm. "Then it's time we bring it back to life." Engines roared, jump drives charged, the hulls of thousands of Terran ships glowing blue against the endless dark. And as hyperspace tore open before them, the same message echoed once more through every relay. Every world, every frightened species. The human fleet is on the move. And somewhere in the silence between stars, the galaxy listened and remembered why it had feared Earth. The return to Theta Prime. The hyperspace tunnel burned like liquid fire as the human fleet tore through it. Every ship shuddered under the strain, engines humming with the deep growl of ancient power. Beyond the glass of the command deck, colors twisted. Blue, red, white, the sound of reality bending under Terran propulsion. When the fleet dropped out, the stars snapped back into focus, and silence fell. Before them hung Theta Prime, a dead world orbiting a dying star. Its oceans were gone, its cities hollow skeletons wrapped in dust long ago. It had been one of humanity's brightest colonies, a beacon of progress before the collapse. Now the surface looked like a graveyard of metal bones. Commander Vance adjusted his visor as scans poured in. "No life signs," he said quietly. Radiation minimal, atmosphere thin, but sir, there's energy down there. Admiral Hale frowned, stepping closer to the display. Show me. Vance expanded the scan, deep beneath the surface. A pulse of blue light throbbed at regular intervals. It matched the frequency of the distress signal that started everything. That can't be natural, Knox whispered. It's coming from under the old Capitol. Hale nodded once. Prepare a landing team, he said. I'm going down there myself. Minutes later, the Resolute's dropship sliced through the toxic clouds. They landed on a shattered landing pad surrounded by the ruins of skyscrapers half buried in sand. The air shimmered with heat, and the wind howled through broken steel. As the team stepped out, their boots crunched on ash and glass. Feels like a tomb, Knox murmured, sweeping her rifle left to right. Every Terran world is, Hale replied quietly, until we reclaim it. They reached the Capitol's underground entrance, a circular blast door sealed with layers of rust. Hale placed his gauntlet against the metal, and his suit system linked to it. Recognized, Terran Command Access Level Admiral, a robotic voice said. The door trembled, groaned, then split open with a scream of ancient hydraulics. Cold blue light spilled out from below, bathing their faces in eerie glow. Inside lay a vast chamber, rows of sealed pods, machines humming, and at the center a glowing sphere rotating slowly. Knox stepped forward, her voice shaking. Sir, these aren't power cells, these are cryopods. Hale walked closer, brushing dust from a transparent lid. Inside lay a human figure, frozen but alive, eyes closed, uniform pristine. The nameplate read, Captain Arlen Reyes, Earth Fleet Command. 300 years, Hale whispered, his breath fogging the glass. They've been waiting for us. Suddenly the blue sphere flickered, and a voice filled the room, cold and mechanical. Fleet Command presence detected, it said. Theta Prime defensive protocol online. Awaiting authorization. Knox raised her weapon instinctively, but Hale lifted a hand. Authorization, Hale, Marcus, Admiral. Earth Fleet Command. A pause. Then the AI's tone changed. Authorization accepted. Welcome back, Admiral. Initializing system reactivation. Above the planet, the orbiting ruins began to stir. Old satellites rotated. Long-dead defense grids powered on, and orbital cannons rose from craters across the surface. Abandoned factories flickered with life in space one by one. Massive shadows emerged from the dust. Dormant Terran ships buried for centuries. A hidden fleet entombed but never forgotten. On the Resolute, the bridge crew gasped as the radar lit up with hundreds of friendly signatures. Sir, multiple vessels awakening, heavy cruisers, carriers and... God, said Vance, there's a dreadnought down there the size of a continent. Hale smiled faintly. Project Sentinel, he said. I thought it was a myth. Before they could celebrate, a new alert flashed red. Multiple jump signatures detected. Unknown vessels inbound. Hale turned sharply. Identify. Not Krill, sir, said the sensor officer. These are council ships, 20 of them, heading straight for us. In orbit. The sleek golden ships of the Galactic Council appeared. Weapons charged, formation tight. The lead vessel transmitted a message on open channel. This is the Council Enforcement Fleet, a voice boomed. You are violating interstellar law by activating pre-collapse weapon systems. Power down or be fired upon. Hale's jaw tightened. They want to lecture us now, he said quietly. After centuries of silence, Knox turned to him. Nervous, sir, they outnumber us 2-1. Hale looked at her. Calm and certain, we're not here to fight, he said. But we will defend what's ours. He stepped forward and activated the comm. This is Admiral Marcus Hale of Earth Fleet Command. His voice filled the channel steady as thunder. This world is Terran, this fleet is Terran, and humanity has returned. Silence followed. A long, tense silence that rippled across both fleets. Then the council captain responded, voice trembling slightly. Admiral, you don't understand what you've awakened. Hale's eyes hardened. Oh, I do, he said, glancing at the glowing sphere behind him. And so will you. The Sentinel's power core roared to life. A beam of light piercing the planet's crust and stabbing into the void. Every human ship synced to the pulse, shields shimmering brighter, engines roaring louder. It was not just a fleet anymore. It was the rebirth of a civilization, and the galaxy was about to witness what humanity had been preparing for 3 centuries. The council ships shifted uneasily, weapons hesitating to fire because deep inside, Every captain remembered the stories of the Deathworlders who never surrendered, never died, and always came back stronger. As the stars trembled and the planet glowed, Hale gave his final order. "Broadcast it again," he said. The communications officer nodded and sent the message across every known frequency. "Emergency signal detected. The human fleet is on the move." And this time the entire galaxy heard it. The Council's ultimatum. The glow of Theta Prime's reawakened core still pulsed through the void. A blue heart beating beneath layers of dust and steel. Across the darkness, the Galactic Council fleet formed a crescent of gold and silver, their ships gleaming with the arrogance of order, and between them, like a shadow refusing to bow to the light, hung the human fleet, a silent, scarred, and alive again. Inside the Council flagship Valtharan, High Admiral Tavor paced along the command deck, his eyes flicking across the holographic feed of the Terran vessels. Each hull looked older than history itself, yet the power readings were off the scale. "Primitive construction," he muttered, "but those energy spikes, nothing in the registry matches them." His aide trembled beside him, voice low. "Sir, the Terrans are charging rail batteries, but they're not aiming at us." Tavor froze. Then who? Down below in the dark heart of Theta Prime, the cryochamber hummed louder. The sphere at its center emitted waves of light that crawled up the walls like living fire. Hale and his team stood before it, their suits bathed in blue glow. "Admiral," said Knox, checking her scanner, "the AI core is expanding its signal. It's sending data to every Terran ship." The sphere's voice spoke again, softer now, almost human. "Directive, restoration. Humanity's legacy must not fade," Protocol Sentinel-1 initialized. Hale frowned. "Explain Sentinel-1, he ordered. The voice answered without hesitation. "Stored consciousness archive detected. Authorization required to awaken remaining command structures." "Stored consciousness?" Knox echoed. "Sir, are there people inside the system?" The AI's glow flickered. "Correction. Not people. Admirals, captains, and strategists integrated to preserve Earth Fleet command capability." For a moment, no one spoke, the truth settling like lead in their chests. The humans had uploaded their leaders before extinction. Now the fleet was waking them up. Back in orbit, the Council's patience ended. A burst of static filled the comms, and Tavor's voice boomed across open channels. "Terran fleet, by decree of the Galactic Council, you are ordered to cease planetary activity and surrender control of the Theta Prime weapon grid." Admiral Hale stood still for a long moment, the message echoing through the bridge of the Resolute. Then he spoke, his tone calm but edged with iron. "Theta Prime isn't a weapon," he said. "It's a grave. And we're done letting others bury us." The Council ships began to advance, their formation tightening like a fist. Knox whispered, "Sir, they'll open fire any second." Hale nodded slowly. "Then let them," he said. "But make sure history remembers who fired first." The void trembled as the first volley erupted. Golden plasma spears slicing through the dark. Human shields flared. Ancient technology meeting modern arrogance, half the shots were absorbed. The rest scattered harmlessly against the magnetic net of the Sentinel field. On the Valtharan, Tavor watched in disbelief. "They're deflecting our main batteries. Impossible." Hale didn't retaliate, not yet. He stepped to the forward viewport, staring at the wall of fire approaching. "Transmit to all frequencies," he ordered. The comm officer nodded. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale of the human fleet." His voice thundered across space. "You stood by when our colonies burned, when our children died on forgotten worlds. You called us Deathworlders because we refused to die easy. Now you call us a threat because we survived. We will not conquer, we will not kneel. We will remember." The fleet's engines roared as the ancient dreadnought Hammer of Sol broke atmosphere, rising from Theta Prime's surface like a god of war. Its hull shone with the glow of the awakened AI network. Human voices, long dead but preserved in the archive, whispered through the comms, merging into a single chorus. "We are humanity, we endure. We rise." The Hammer of Sol opened its forward array, not firing at the Council but toward empty space. A beam of energy lanced outward, cutting through subspace itself, opening a gate, a ripple that spread across the galaxy. Knox gasped. "Sir, that's not a weapon, it's a signal amplifier." Hale nodded. "They're not calling us," he said. "They're calling everyone, from distant systems," faint echoes answered. "Old human frequencies, long forgotten. began to awaken from abandoned colonies, derelict fleets and lost outposts buried in time. Each pulse carried the same message: human fleet active, restoration protocol confirmed. And with every signal, more ships came alive, more systems woke, more ghosts of humanity returned to the stars. The Council fleet froze, their weapons lowering as hundreds of new Terran signatures appeared across the sector. Tavor's aide whispered in horror, "Sir, the humans, they're everywhere." The High Admiral sank back into his command chair, eyes wide. This is not a fleet," he murmured. "This is resurrection." Hale watched the readings climb, his voice quiet but fierce. "Let them come," he said. "We're not done yet." The fleet's lights glowed brighter. The cryopods below began to thaw, and the Sentinel's pulse spread beyond Theta Prime. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, realized what it meant for humanity to move. And somewhere beyond even the edge of known space, a forgotten voice whispered through the static, "Welcome back." Terrans, the ghost fleets awakened. The pulse from Theta Prime didn't fade. It multiplied, across nebulae, across the skeletons of forgotten empires. Signals flared like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Ancient Terran transponders, buried in wrecks or drifting for centuries, blinked to life one after another for the first time in 300 years. Humanity's lost children heard their mother calling. In the dust clouds of the Orion Verge, a derelict carrier stirred. Once thought destroyed in the Exodus Wars, its hull split and scarred. It still bore the faded words TSS Vigilant inside. Cold air rushed through corridors lit by flickering red lights. A mechanical voice echoed down its halls. "Signal Theta Prime confirmed. Command restoration authorized." One by one, cryochambers hissed open. Figures stumbled out. Thin, pale, but alive. They had slept through centuries of silence and woke to find the war had waited for them. Captain Mira Lennox fell to her knees, touching the deck beneath her. 3 centuries. She whispered, "And the fleet still stands." A nearby officer smiled weakly. "It never stopped waiting, ma'am, outside." Navigation systems locked onto the source of the call. The Vigilant turned its broken hull toward Theta Prime, engines coughing back to life with a roar that shook the stars. Far away in the graveyard orbit of Nyrus III, something vast turned its head. A machine mind, dormant since the fall of Earth Fleet Eastern Command, opened its sensors. Its logic cores processed the incoming pulse and matched it to human identification codes older than any living species. "Terran Authority verified," it said, its voice deep as thunder. Reactivating orbital assets below it. The planet's surface cracked open as bunkers released ships that had never launched. Dust fell away from their wings like the shedding of old skin. A new armada rose from the ashes of extinction. On the Resolute, Admiral Hale watched his displays explode with activity. Hundreds of new Terran IFF tags appeared across every quadrant. "Sir," said Commander Vance, barely able to keep up with the readings, "we're detecting fleets in 16 sectors. Some of these ships predate the Exodus itself." Hale's jaw tightened. "They were waiting for the call," he said quietly. "And now they've answered." Lieutenant Knox stared at the tactical map wide-eyed. "Sir, this isn't just our fleet anymore." "No," Hale said. "This is humanity waking up." But not everyone saw salvation. Within the Galactic Council fleet, confusion rippled through the ranks. One captain whispered, "If they control the old networks, they control the gates themselves," another hissed. "You can't fight ghosts. They'll come from every direction." The Council's High Admiral Tavor could only watch as the balance of power shifted before his eyes. The enemy he'd been taught to fear was no longer a rumor. It was a living storm. Meanwhile, on Theta Prime, the AI core began to change. Its glow brightened, its voice softening, becoming more human. "Restoration 72%, it reported. Core consciousness merging. Fleet command hierarchy stabilizing." Hale frowned. "Merging with what?" The sphere pulsed once. "With you," it said simply. The light expanded, wrapping around Hale in a brief shimmer of warmth and static. Images flashed in his mind, memories not his own. Wars, councils, the face of Earth itself burning in the final days. When the light faded, he staggered, breathing hard. "Sir!" Knox cried, catching him. Hale's eyes opened, now faintly glowing blue. "She's inside me," he whispered. The original command AI, EOS Protocol Alpha. It chose me. EOS's voice spoke through him, clear and calm. Command authority transferred. Mission directive. Reunite, rebuild, return. Hale straightened, feeling the weight of centuries settle on his shoulders. Then we finish what they started, he said. The Council fleet hesitated on the edge of engagement, but before they could react, the void filled with light. Hundreds of Terran ships jumping in at once, forming a massive halo around Theta Prime, old models, new variants, drones, carriers, and planet crackers, each bearing the insignia of Earth. Their formation was silent, perfect, terrifying. The ghosts had come home, a voice transmitted across all frequencies, neither male nor female, both human and machine. This is the Terran Restoration Network, active and operational. All human assets acknowledge Fleet Command Theta. We stand ready. Every human ship answered in unison, their engines roaring like the beating of one colossal heart. On the Valtharan, Tavor sank back into his chair, his arrogance gone. By the stars, he whispered, they're not a fleet. They're a species reborn. Admiral Hale looked out at the horizon of ships stretching across the black. Signal all sectors, he said, his voice calm but carrying a weight the galaxy could feel. Humanity has returned to the stars, and we're not leaving again. As the Sentinel network stabilized, a final message pulsed outward. Beyond known space, beyond the reach of the Council, ancient beacons caught it and blinked back in response, and somewhere in that endless dark a massive signal stirred, one older than the fleet itself, a voice so ancient it made even EOS pause. Signal confirmed. Earth Prime ready for re-entry. The bridge fell silent. Hale turned slowly toward the viewport, his heart pounding. Earth Prime, he whispered. It was never destroyed. Earth Prime returns. The moment the words, Earth Prime ready for re-entry, echoed through the comms, time itself seemed to hold its breath. The bridge of the Resolute went completely silent, save for the low hum of the engines and the pulse of the Sentinel core through the hull. Every officer froze at their stations, their minds struggling to comprehend what the signal meant. For centuries, humanity had believed their homeworld burned to ash, swallowed by its own wars. But the truth was far stranger. Earth had never died. It had hidden. The AI voice of EOS flickered through Admiral Hale's neural link, calm yet resonant with emotion that didn't belong to a machine. Admiral Hale, the Prime World was relocated during the Exodus, she said. Relocated? He repeated, disbelief cracking his voice. Yes, EOS replied. Moved beyond the galactic plane through artificial singularity, an evacuation measure under Project Arc. Hale gripped the command rail, staring at the starfield ahead. Are you saying Earth left the galaxy? Correct, the AI confirmed. And now, it's coming home. The Resolute's main screen shifted to show a faint distortion forming at the edge of the Theta Prime system. A vast ripple, space itself bending inward like a sheet pulled taut. Energy readings climbed off the scale. Gravitational surge detected, shouted Commander Vance. Knox whispered, Is that a planet? The light intensified until shapes emerged from within the distortion. Massive structures, satellites, defense rings, and at the center a sphere of blue and green, slowly solidifying from light into matter. It was Earth, reborn, pristine and colossal, wrapped in artificial shields and surrounded by fleets the size of continents. Gasps filled the human fleet, comm channels bursting with voices. Is that real? It can't be. Earth? After all this time? Even the alien council ships broke formation, their scanners overwhelmed by the sheer gravitational mass before them. Tavor, watching from his flagship, whispered in awe. They moved their own planet, across galaxies. No species has ever done that. Hale stood motionless, eyes wide. The planet glowed with a living blue hue, its clouds swirling like a storm reborn, and across his neural interface EOS's voice softened. Project Arc was designed for one purpose, she said, to preserve the heart of humanity until the stars were ready for their return. But why now? Hale asked quietly. Because, said EOS, The signal you sent woke the last protocol, Earth's final defense and Earth's final promise. The space around the new Earth shimmered again, revealing structures unlike anything seen before, orbital cities, miles long, forming a ring around the planet, each one carrying the emblem of the old Terran nations. From within them, more ships emerged, fleets that had waited centuries under command of automated guardians. Each one transmitted the same message to Hale's fleet. Awaiting orders, Fleet Command Theta recognized. Nox wiped tears from her eyes, her voice breaking. "Sir, they've been waiting for us, for the signal we didn't even know we'd send." Hale looked at the vast world before him, his voice heavy with pride. "Then let's not keep them waiting any longer." He activated the fleet-wide channel, his voice carried across every Terran vessel and every Council ship that still dared to listen. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale, Earth Fleet Command," he said, his tone firm but filled with quiet power. "For 3 centuries humanity has been silent, scattered, hunted and forgotten. But our silence was not death. It was preparation. We are the sons and daughters of Earth. We are the survivors of the Death World. And today we come home." The Terran fleets aligned around the planet, forming layers of defense like a great machine reawakening. The ghost fleets joined them, each ship sliding into formation with perfect precision. Living proof that humanity's memory was carved into metal and willpower. Eos's light pulsed once more, her tone shifting from machine to something almost human. "Admiral, the Prime Council requests your presence." Hale frowned. "Who's the Prime Council?" "The original command structure," Eos said. "The last surviving human leadership, preserved within Earth's core intelligence." A golden corridor of energy extended from Earth's orbit, opening like a bridge. The Resolute followed it, descending toward the atmosphere, the ship trembling as energy cascaded across its hull. Below, the planet gleamed with life. Forests, oceans, cities rebuilt by machines in perfect silence, waiting for their makers to return. As the Resolute broke through the clouds, Hale could see the Terran capital rising from the center of a massive ring structure, towering spires of white metal, alive with light. When the ship landed, the ground shimmered beneath his boots. A voice greeted him, not mechanical, but ancient, proud, and unmistakably human. "Welcome home, Admiral Hale," it said. From the glowing floor, human figures materialized, holograms of leaders long dead, each wearing the insignia of the old Earth Federation. "We are the Prime Council," one said, "and we have watched you endure. The galaxy forgot who we were. It is time they remember." Above them, the skies of Earth Prime turned silver as the orbital shield expanded. Linking with the Sentinel network across the stars, every Terran ship received the same message. Restoration complete. Earth Fleet Ascendant. The Council forces observing from afar transmitted frantic messages. They've restored an entire civilization in one cycle. No species has ever silenced them before. But before any command could be given, Earth's shield expanded again, broadcasting a final declaration to the entire galaxy. To all worlds, to all empires, to all who remember the old wars, humanity has returned, not to conquer, but to reclaim its place among the stars. We will rebuild, we will protect, and we will never vanish again. And as Earth Prime hung above the galaxy, radiant and alive, the once feared Deathworlders stood united, not as ghosts, not as survivors, but as the architects of a new age. The human fleet formed a halo around their reborn world, engines blazing like 1,000 suns. The galaxy looked upon them in awe, because every being across the stars now understood the truth. You can burn a world, you can erase its name, but you can never extinguish humanity.